21 soldiers, 10,000 warriors, and a door that was open the entire time. Nobody walked through it. It wasn't fanaticism, it wasn't orders, it was a choice, made 21 separate times by 21 separate men on the same morning. But before we start, one thing needs to be clear. The version of this story you may have heard, the body counts, the exact last words, has grown in the telling for a century. The documented truth is smaller in its numbers, and somehow much, much larger. But to understand why 21 men chose a hopeless ridge over an open road, we need to go back to the most dangerous border of the 19th century, the northwest frontier, 1897, the edge of British India. Today, the border country of Pakistan and Afghanistan, a land of knife-edge ridges and shadowed valleys that no empire had ever truly conquered. Not Alexander, not the Mughals, not the British, whatever their maps claimed. The people of these mountains, Afridi and Orakzai Pashtuns, were some of the finest natural fighters on earth, defending valleys their families had held for centuries. The British drew lines through those valleys. The mountains had other opinions. To watch this border, the British built forts along a spine of rock called the Samana Ridge. Fort Lockhart on one end, Fort Gulistan a few kilometers away. Solid stone, real garrisons, and between them, a problem. A fold of rock rose in the middle of the ridge, and the two forts could not see each other. In an age before radio, invisible meant mute. The solution was a third post, small, almost domestic. A stone blockhouse with a signal tower perched on the high ground between the forts, built for one purpose, to relay messages by heliograph, a tripod-mounted mirror that flashed Morse code in beams of sunlight, ridge to ridge, up to strange distances. A telegraph made of light. The post was called Saragarhi. Whoever held it held the ridge's voice. Whoever took it struck two forts deaf in a single stroke. In September 1897, Saragarhi was held by 21 men of the 36th Sikhs, a regiment recruited from the Punjab, heirs to one of the proudest martial traditions in Asia. Their non-commissioned commander was Havildar Ishar Singh, a sergeant in his late 40s with a reputation for exact standards and unshakable calm. The youngest specialist on post was the signalman, Gurmukh Singh, 19 years old, the man whose hands spoke for the ridge. That summer, the frontier rose. Not a raid, an uprising. Tribal confederations put aside their own feuds and moved on the Samana with a strategy any staff college would respect. Blind the forts, divide them, destroy them one at a time. And the hinge of that plan was the little post in the middle. On the night of September 11th, the sentries at Saragarhi watched fires kindle in the valleys below. First dozens, then hundreds. By dawn on September 12th, the hillsides themselves seemed to move. Thousands upon thousands of warriors rising out of the terrain, standards lifting, war drums rolling across the valleys. The British estimates that morning ranged from 8,000 to 15,000 men. Even the lowest number made the arithmetic obscene. Gurmukh Singh's mirror flashed the sighting to Fort Lockhart. The reply came back across 6 miles of sunlight, and it was honest to the point of cruelty. No relief can reach you. And here is the moment that separates Saragarhi from almost every battle in history. The attack had not yet closed the ring. The path to Fort Lockhart still lay open. The garrison had time, transport of their own 2 feet, and every military justification to withdraw from an indefensible relay post. The Havildar looked down his line of men. The men looked back, and 21 times, without a speech, the answer was the same. They barred the gate. The storm broke at 9 in the morning. The first assault came up the slopes in a wave and immediately met the 2 weapons the defenders actually had. The first was the Martini Henry rifle, old, single-shot, but devastating in disciplined hands. The second was the ground itself. The approaches to Saragarhi funneled through narrow rocky lanes. that compressed 10,000 men into fronts of a few dozen at a time. The Sikhs fired by ranks, volley, kneel, reload, volley. Parade ground rhythm turned into a survival machine. The wave staggered, broke, and rolled back down the slope. And between the volleys, the mirror kept flashing. Attack repulsed. That is the detail that makes this battle unlike any other. We know it almost hour by hour because a 19-year-old narrated it in beams of light while it happened. At Fort Lockhart, officers crowded around telescopes, transcribing, watching friends fight 6 miles away with no power to help. The battle came to them as words. Attack repulsed. Ammunition running low. Then, one by one, names. The attackers were not fools, and they were not cowards. Their commanders watched the slopes take casualties and drew the professional conclusion, not through the walls. Around them, sharpshooters settled into the crags and began suppressing the parapet. Every Sikh head that showed drew fire within a second. Brushwood was dragged up and set alight, and smoke curtains crawled across the approaches. And behind that smoke, work parties slipped into a fold of dead ground beneath one corner of the post, a blind spot the defenders' rifles could not reach, and began prying at the base of the wall with picks and bars. Saragarhi could not see them. Fort Lockhart could. The telescopes resolved the mining party with terrible clarity, and the heliograph stabbed out warnings, "They are at your wall," to men who could do nothing about it but brace. Twice, the garrison was offered terms in the mountain manner, safe passage, honorable withdrawal. Twice, the answer was the same silence that had barred the gate. By afternoon, the ammunition boxes were nearly hollow. Rounds were passed from the pouches of the dead to the hands of the living, and then the wall came down. The mined corner collapsed in a roar of stone and dust, and the breach filled with men. What should have ended in seconds did not. The survivors fell back by pairs, firing, claiming corners, manning doorways, turning a farmhouse into a series of small Thermopylaes. Havildar Ishar Singh planted himself in the breach with his last standing men to buy the others time. And there he ended, a sergeant becoming a wall where the wall had died. The guardroom defenders held their doorway so long that the attackers finally chose fire over the door. And then, above the fallen compound, a light. Gurmukh Singh was still in the signal tower, 19 years old, alone, every brother below him gone, thousands of men around him, smoke climbing the stairs, and his hands stayed on the shutter. He flashed the fall of the post to Lockhart. And then, by the tradition the regiment has carried for a century, he flashed one final request: permission to set down the mirror, take up his rifle, and join the fight. The reply came back across the ridge: permission granted. Now the honest part, because this story deserves records, not embroidery. The exact words of that last exchange were not preserved in any surviving log. The phrasing we know is regimental tradition, told and retold by the men who received the flashes. What is documented is this: the signals continued to the end, the tower fell last, and it fell burning, because the only way to reach the last man of Saragarhi was to set fire to the building he defended. Witnesses on both sides spoke of a battle cry rising from the flames. The legend also says the attackers lost 1,400 men, some tellings say more. The records say otherwise. Documented estimates run from around 180 to perhaps 600 casualties. The sources disagree, and honesty says so. But fix on the low number, and then remember what it bought. Because the 21 did not just die well, they won something. The assault on Saragarhi consumed most of a day. When the Confederation finally moved on Fort Gulistan, they arrived hours late, against a garrison that had heard every flash of the battle and stood ready on prepared walls. Gulistan held. Relief columns fought through days later, and the Samana was retaken. The campaign's hinge had cost the attackers a day they could not afford. Purchased by 21 men and a mirror. The British Empire did something it had essentially never done. It awarded the Indian Order of Merit, the highest decoration then open to Indian soldiers, to every single defender. 21 men, 21 awards, 1 action. The story is told that when the account was read in Parliament, the members rose to their feet. Like the final signal, the scene is tradition more than transcript. And like the final signal, the honor behind it is documented beyond doubt. To this day, September 12th is Saragarhi Day, commemorated by the Sikh regiment every year, with memorials standing in Amritsar and Firozpur. 1 post, 1 day, 21 men who had a door and chose a wall. And that is the part no casualty figure can touch. Courage under orders is discipline. Courage with an open road behind you is something else entirely. A decision, renewed hour by hour, volley by volley, flash by flash, until the last man asked permission not to escape, but to fight. History's hardest question isn't whether you would fight for your life. It's whether you would fight when your life was no longer the point. So, the door is open, the road is clear, and the valleys are filling. Do you stay on the ridge, or do you live? Comment the word permission below so I know you made it to the end, and tell me your honest answer. If this story was worth your 14 minutes, drop a like and subscribe. And if it makes sense for you, consider becoming a member. It helps me keep bringing these stories with the research they deserve. Take care, and I'll see you at the next battle. Stay curious, stay analytical. History is never as settled as it seems.